Hello and welcome to Between the Lines Book Talk. I am Michelle Conwell Jordan. I'm one of your hosts, and Denise Garou is joining me today as well. And we're very, very excited because this is our brand new web chat video. We're going to feature many different artists and authors, and they're going to chat about all the behind the scenes details as far as what inspires them and in their writing. So, Denise, what is coming up in the next few weeks?
Gosh, yeah, we got some fun stuff. We got Secrets of the Fae magazine, and we're going to learn the behind the scenes of putting together and the collaboration for a pagan magazine. And we have our book club coming up, and so we're going to do some discussions on the books that our readers are reading. That ought to be really interesting because we're reading Tale of Two Cities with Dragons right now, and that is a major literary work, and I'm still looking for dragons. But let's see. We have some pet muses coming up, so writers who are inspired by their pets. Yes. And
how fun.
And we're going to go into visionary and speculative authors. So that's another genre that a lot of people don't know about.
Yes.
Visionary and speculative. They're like, what is that? So we're all going to learn about that. So that's what's coming up.
Yes. Exciting. Well, today I will welcome authors Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton to join us. We're so excited to chat with you guys. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Michelle, thank you, Denise, for having us.
Yeah. Well, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I will go first. We are, by trade, we are professional speakers. We've been writing for almost 20 years now, mostly business fables. And just recently, about 3 years ago, we came up with the idea to write a long-running paranormal suspense series, which we have been working diligently on. We are on just releasing book 4 of a 10-book series. So that is taking up the time from the writing standpoint, and it is best described as a supernatural soap opera because it has a lot of different characters, a lot of different time frames. And we just updated the cover. You want to show the cover?
Right, exactly, yes. And we're not beyond promotion. So anyway, there's our new cover of the book.
Right. Love it.
Yeah, the series is called Onyx Web.
Nice.
Onyx Web.
Yeah, I love that. Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, well, I went on your website and I had to take a peek, and I did see that, the Onyx Web, and it's really interesting that you guys write in episodes. And, I think that's something that a lot of authors have never really thought about doing, and I mean, that gets quite involved. So, I mean, do the two of you okay, I'm going to take this timeline and I'm going to take these characters and you take that timeline and you take those characters? Is that how you do that?
Actually, no, it's not. But you were right about it being complicated and about having to make sure you have all your, in our case, paranormal ducks in a row before we start writing. Andrea and I sit down and we hash out the storylines for each of the characters in advance. We come up with an agreement of what the beginning, middle, and end is for each of the characters for pretty much the entire book, which would be 3 episodes. And then I take the lead writing the first rough draft, reading her every, 1 or 2 chapters at a time to make sure, we're on the right track. And then when I'm done, I hand it to Andrea, and then she takes out the red pen. And that is not a fun time for me. Every now and then, you miss a word, you an extra comma or 2, that's the normal stuff. But when she takes the red pen and puts the big red X's through page after page after page, sometimes that can be a little disheartening. But you know what, though? That really is what you owe the reader. You owe the reader the best you can write every time. And if one of the 2 authors thinks it's not, it's just not cutting it, it's not doing the job, then you have to be brutal, and she's brutal. And that's what Andrea brings to the party, besides the storyline pieces.
All right. Well, did you start out writing together, or this was just a natural progression? I know you had different careers and you started out in nonfiction, but as far as your fiction, has it always been you two as a team?
Yeah, when Richard and I met, we both had written, actually, I should say, we both had dreams of writing screenplays. I hadn't written a full-length screenplay. He had. And so that was one of our passions together, was writing screenplays. And then we moved into deciding to write fiction for books, because also the barrier to entry with Amazon and the way that you can publish printed books on CreateSpace, it was the perfect way to get our work to the marketplace without having to hopefully go through Hollywood, hope somebody picked our script,
right,
hope we made it, and go through this 10-year process. So yeah, we have been, ever since we met and decided that it was a passion of ours, we've been writing together.
Very cool. All right.
Sorry, guys. Got an interruption here. Okay.
Those tech issues.
It always happens. It always happens.
Yes.
So you guys said that your series is a paranormal series. Can you tell us what inspired your story?
It was really funny. It kind of came out of left field. We were here in Orlando, where we live. We were walking around Lake Eola one afternoon, and Andrea just out of nowhere said, "Wouldn't it be fun to write a ghost story?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounds like fun." Neither of us had any idea that it was going to turn into a 10-book, 2,500-page odyssey that we were going to end up going down.
Wow.
We didn't know that. And that's where the funny thing comes in, is because, a lot of people think that the authors are in control of what goes on the printed page. And in our particular case, the characters took control of what went on the printed page. They decided what they wanted their storylines to be as we were writing it. And literally, we went from having 6 main characters to having 16 main characters, because the other 10 decided, hey, they were going to get their fair share of time, and they battled their way into the series. And I say that jokingly, but kind of seriously. Your characters do take on a nature of their own, and that's kind of how the whole thing evolved.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Is it me?
Yeah.
I lost the thread there.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice and give you your turn.
All right. The other couples that we spoke with, we asked the question, have you collaborated? But they were saying that the styles were different. But you are in collaboration. That's not one of the challenges. But how about ideas? You mentioned that Andrea, she brings with her the story ideas. But how do you handle when one wants the story to go one way and the other doesn't? And how do you keep peace in the writing team when that happens?
Michelle, it's funny you bring that up, because just today we were having a conversation and Richard made a comment. We have two sisters who are in the wine business, and at our finale in book 9, one of our finales is the solstice, which opens up the plane between the dead and the living. And one of the sisters, I had always believed that both of them lived, and Richard always has it in his head that one of them is going to die. And so it really came to a head on that day, which was, I don't want one of them to die, and he wants one of them to die. So we're battling on these things. We actually, if one of us can make the case, make a good case for why something should or should not happen, usually that person can win. But we really do. We hash it out. You have to be like a lawyer, right? You have to state your case. Here's why this person should not die, or here's why this should happen. And also for us, because our world is you know how sometimes writers, authors, they write the stories where it's extremely fantastical, right? It's not, it's you come in and they build a whole world for you. Our world is very much the natural world, but we have ghosts who we start to see that are coming through, and some of our characters are coming back because they're ghosts. And so we really try to deal with a lot of reality. And so we fight for, at least I fight for, and we have to walk this line of what's believable. You know, is it, do our readers buy it? Because this is the natural world. This is literally like what we experience today. We're not building some kind of crazy paranormal world where there's shifters and vampires and things. This is, you know, kind of your average cities and towns, but we have some people that, as it turns out, are ghosts. One of our main characters, Onyx Web, is a ghost, and we don't hide that fact. Actually, that's something that we share up front. But yeah, we do battle, and it's tough because you have to make your case, and eventually we figure it out.
Yeah, but I do want to add here that when Andrea fights, she doesn't fight fair. Because she doesn't say, no, I don't think she, you know, I don't think she should die. I think she should live. She states it as if it's true. She says, she doesn't die. You know? And I mean, yeah, but we said, no, she doesn't. And, you know, so we do have it out sometimes.
And so if there's no agreement, do you take the character out, or do you just keep at it until you work it out?
You know, if it's a give and take, and sometimes if I can't get my way fully, I usually do get my way fully, but if I can't get my way fully, then I will look for something like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, then let's do X, because at least this particular thing rings true for me. And so I can go along with whatever decision, you know, or whatever idea that Richard's had. You know, luckily, our feeling about the story is very similar. It is about flawed characters who not every character makes perfect decisions. They make good decisions, they make bad decisions, but really we get our characters into a lot of messes. That's what we like. We want our readers to constantly turn the page and go, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to our characters. And that's why I joke that it's a supernatural soap opera, because it's like a soap opera where a family's combined, where characters are really interwoven, hence the Onyx Web, and ghosts are involved. So it's a suspenseful page turner. And in order to do that, we've got to have a lot of, oh my God, moments in there. And that we can agree on. If we can get a good, oh my God moment, then we're both usually pretty happy.
Very cool.
Well, I know, just by listening to you guys, it sounds like it's really, you know, fast-paced soap opera, you know, but, you know, you hit on paranormal and you hit on solstice, and I'm just kind of curious, is this something that, you know, when you're talking about solstice, you're talking about earth-based and that type of a tradition. Do you guys have to do a lot of research, or is this just something that you guys already know about?
Well, that is a great question, and I will tell you first off, we know nothing about any of it. We have never been people who I don't even believe in ghosts. Okay, so I mean, I'm the non-believer of the group. Andrea,
and I totally believe in ghosts. I believe in all of it. So I'm always watching the ghost stories and getting the ideas. Although he will watch them just for the ideas.
Right, absolutely. But we refer to this, besides calling it a supernatural soap opera, we also refer to it as a multi-genre mashup, because it has a wide variety of storylines. It's not just ghost. We have the FBI's involved. We have the mafia's involved. We've got the billionaire family, the Mulvaney's, and their lifestyle of the rich and famous. And we have Onyx living in her lighthouse. And over time, all of these characters, as their stories play out, we find that in each of their worlds, they have they have had some form of supernatural experience or are having some form of ghost experience. And in the end, all of the storylines come together. But it is very historical. So we go back all the way to 1904 in the series, starting at the World's Fair in St. Louis, and
wow.
and we do our absolute best to be true to the situation. And so, you know, we'll have a real event that we'll work in the Sulphur Springs train wreck in Sulphur Springs, Missouri, and, you know, August 5th of 1922, and we will work in all the details. But then we'll put one of our characters on the train. Now, they weren't really on the train, so we are 90% true to the setting. And then when our character gets brought into it, then we launch off with that character and how it affected them, and they take the story from there. But there is a lot of history. Not to say that it's boring, long history, but we've worked very hard to make sure that the events that we talk about are all real events.
That's very, very cool. I'm going to piggyback off that question. So what has been one of the most interesting finds as far as your research, or interesting things to you both? That you found?
Well, I will jump in and say, just in our research on the World's Fair, which actually is in book 1, and it's a small piece, our main character, Onyx Web, she's 6 years old. She goes to the World's Fair in St. Louis with her father, Catfish. That's where Onyx gets kidnapped. And as we were doing research, Richard, who loves to go on eBay and shop and buy things, actually collected a lot of historical relics from the World's Fair. We have a little change purse that we got from the fair. It has an embossed, St. Louis Exposition 1904 little purse, which we purchased, and it plays into the series. Onyx gets it. She ends up giving it to a friend of hers, a lifelong friend, and we watch this purse it will eventually end up at the very, very end of the series in the hands of Coda Mulvaney, one of our young billionaire. So that is the fun of the web, which everything ends up getting connected. But I think the fun is we purchase these items on eBay from the World's Fair, and to me, and maybe I'm just drinking my own Kool-Aid here, to me, that's Onyx's little purse. That is the purse that we have. So that has been fun to just actually get those items, feel and touch those items, and then put them in our story. Right.
As a matter of fact, I found this knife that was the first prize for the hunting competition at the 1904 World's Fair. And somebody was auctioning it off, and, you know, we bid on it and won it. And I mean, we literally had it on the desk as we were writing the scene. And that scene would not have been in the story had we not realized there was even a hunting competition, right? And so once we saw the knife that came, so it kind of like we go back and forth. We've been to, I would say, 90% of the places we talk about in the series. We have been there. The hotels, we have stayed there. The restaurants, we've eaten there. What?
That reminds me of one of the really super fun trips that we took 2 years ago. We went to Lilydale, New York, which is a spiritualist community. They call it Place That No One...
The Place Where No One Dies.
The Place Where No One Dies, which was a special on, I think, HBO about the fact that Lilydale is a community of mediums. It's just all of these mediums that you can go and walk the streets, and we did that. We stayed at the community, researched it, walked into, they have a pet cemetery actually there. We walked the cemetery that is in our story. So it's just been really fun. That's probably one of my favorite memories, is just going to that community and then bringing that into our story with 2 fictional characters.
How cool.
But yeah, it's fun.
I've never heard of that. That is really awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow, Denise.
Yeah. You know, I did that in Candlelight Cobwebs. I went back into 1918, and it's kind of interesting how it's like, what am I doing here? Why is this in the story in the first place? But then when I went back to 334 BCE Delphi, Greece, then it all came together. But But I wanted to just ask you guys, can you collaborate on a favorite scene? I know your soap opera is huge, but is there anything that stands out that you guys enjoyed the most writing about?
Oh, that is
Yeah. When you say collaborate, I'm not exactly sure whether you want us to act it out. I like to take one character and Andrea will take another. I really like to know the characters, and I like to have a sense. I mean, a lot of it doesn't get in the book. A lot of it's just the background things that we know about the characters, things that may have happened to them that or that make up who they are, where they've become damaged, or where they found their strength, and maybe those things don't. There's one moment that we have a character named Juniper Cole, and Juniper is 8, and she is a piano prodigy, and she has been invited to go on the Johnny Carson show. And so they bring her out onto the stage, and her family's all backstage, and her brother, and she gets to the piano. And it really was one of those moments where Juniper, just literally, she took over. And I didn't know much about playing the piano. I've never played the piano, but Juniper got to the piano and she just literally said, hands in position, remain relaxed, think about the song, know your first note, be magnificent. And then she starts playing. And
I love that.
And it was like, I understood who that character was because she had such a strong desire to be wonderful. Even at the age of 8, she had this burning desire to be magnificent. And I think we all want to be magnificent at something. And she already was at the age of 8. And that particular scene to me is an example of the type of thing where from that moment on, anytime I felt like I got lost with the character, I didn't know what she was going to say next or what she was going to do next. I just remembered, this is who Juniper is. Stay connected to that. And so those are the scenes that I like best are those grounding scenes.
Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite is when Richard and I find another way to weave this web together, and we're allowed to do that in our series because it's paranormal, because our people happen to come back from the dead. So they're not necessarily gone. And we had a fun moment one time. We've had a couple actually, one with our billionaire, which he was asking me, he said, we need to tuck Coda away for just a little bit because we need to tell a couple other stories. And he said, what do you think we should do? What do you think should happen? And I said, well, on soap operas, it's always a coma. It's always a coma. We should just throw Coda in a coma. So that was a fun, that was a fun one. And that's a total spoiler because that actually happens in book 5, which we're writing now.
He's in a coma right now.
He's in a coma right now as we speak. The other fun thing was in book 1, Onyx, who gets kidnapped at the World's Fair, gets rescued by a detective named Stormy Boyd. Now, Stormy ends up not surviving book 1, but we have another character a couple books later need a private detective, and lo and behold, who does he end up hiring? We were trying to brainstorm. We said, well, who should he hire? And I said, well, we've got a couple people coming back from the dead. I said, he needs to hire Stormy Boyd. Stormy Boyd's still a private detective. So he said, let's have Stormy come back. And it totally worked. Wow. And as crazy as I know that may sound like, oh, come on, you guys. Well, I will say that I'm pretty happy the way we do things because we explain how this is possible in our world of paranormal. Just because you happen to be dead in Onyx Web doesn't mean you may not show back up. It's just in the natural world.
Yep.
Yeah. So those are the fun collaborations that we have when we're stuck in a corner and we go like, okay, what should we do now? And we come up with some crazy idea.
Right.
Great.
How fun. Well, how about your writing, the nuts and bolts, the writing procedure? I think Denise touched on it at the beginning, but do you alternate the chapters? How about times? Early morning, late evening, whenever you can. I mean, how do you come together to be able to write that way?
That is a great question. And I will tell you the way that it normally works. And this is after we've sat down, hashed out what the storylines are. We do it a little bit different probably than most people would write. It's like when you see a movie or a TV show that's been shot, they will shoot all of the scenes at one location, right? They don't want to they're not going to shoot in the actual order of the show. They're going to, they're going to shoot all of the scenes that are at the courthouse for 3 days. And then they're going to go something else, and then they splice it all together. Well, we kind of do it similar in that if we have 3 different tracks running in a book, so we have the Coda track, so we're telling Coda's story, and Juniper's story, and Onyx's story. After Andrea and I decide on the storylines, I will write all of the Coda track. I'll write 15 scenes. Right, wow. It's kind of like I'm taking all of the spades in a deck, and I'm creating these cards, right? One for each scene, and then after each 15 are done, I hand them to Andrea, and she goes to edit. Then I will write the Onyx track, and I'll do the same thing, and then she'll go to edit, and then I write the Juniper track, let's say last. So now we've got 45 scenes, and those 45 scenes are going to be merged together into the book. And it's almost like taking the 3 different suits of the cards and just mixing them. So that the book goes from one character to the next character, the next character, and then back to the first character. And so over the course of all of this, it doesn't get written the way that you read it. It gets written differently.
Each track.
Yeah, each track
is linear. It is linear. It's all the way through.
Each track is linear.
Okay.
But each of the 3 different tracks are like in completely different times. One is in 2010, and one is in 1970, and one is in 1926. And so the 3 tracks are running, but then they get merged together. So the reader is always reading,
That's incredible.
Character to the next, to the next. Yeah, and it sounds like it would be a complete mess. I mean,
I'm impressed.
Yeah, but after you get past the first book and you understand the format, and you connect to the initial characters, then it's pretty easy to hang your hat on it. Television has an advantage because when you see TV or a movie, you can see the way people are dressed. You can tell that it's 1910. You can tell that it's modern day. In our thing, if you're not paying attention to the headers,
right,
San Francisco, 1952, if you're not paying attention, then you can get lost. But as long as you're just giving that couple seconds at the beginning of each scene. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it did.
But I was more so thinking about the writing of it as far as how do you guys do that? That's incredible. But
well, we use a lot of in fact there's a board right behind us with some post-it notes. Luckily Richard we have this complicated series, but he's very analytical. And so the nice thing about that is that because he's so analytical, we've broken everything down. We've got 45 scenes to a book. We've got 45 scenes. Yeah. And we've got all of these breakdowns. So we know exactly pretty much how long everything should be. I mean, we've got it into a formula, which is really important. If you're writing something like this, you've got to know exactly what you're going to accomplish in each episode, in each track, in each scene. And so we lay it all out beforehand, because this is not just something where we can just sit there and write until we feel done. No. We have to accomplish certain things in 5 pages, and we know what those things need to be.
Yeah, and I think the first letters of analytical are anal. Okay, which is what I think she's trying to say.
Good thing.
Yeah, a little too organized sometimes.
Sounds very cool.
Well, that kind of answered part of my question. I'm just wondering if you've written anything separate, and if you think that when you collaborate, does it go faster when you collaborate, or does it go slower just because you are collaborating?
That's good. That's great.
That is a good question. Everything that we've written together in some form or fashion, whether Richard has taken the lead on it or I've taken the lead on it. I've got a fun story that I wrote about 2 girls who go on a crazy Mexican Riviera type crime caper thing. And he edited it and gave me tons of feedback and worked it with me. So sometimes I think it might take a little bit longer to do those things, but I think it's always more worth it in the end. And it's nice to have someone who really is your editor and your collaborator to tell you, hey, this isn't working, this does work, and to also not have to pay them. I just have to pay him every now and then, and then he's fine.
Yeah, and I just want to make a mention here. So Andrea done one book, and I edit hers. I write the lead on certain things on Onyx Web. She edits, she'll edit that. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, the person who wrote it somehow is more important than the person who edited it. Well, I'm not 100% sure. You watch movies. You watch movies. Well, over the course of the last 15, 20 years, they directed by who the director is has become one of the feature things they put up front with the actors now. And with the title. When you look at music, who's the producer, right? Produced by becomes almost as important as the artist who wrote the initial song. And the song that got written initially after the producer gets his or her hands on it is a completely different animal. Drops Jupiter, which is one of my favorite songs, has this beautiful orchestration in it. And the band said, we didn't even come up with that. The producer did. Wow. So the question becomes, does an editor get their fair share of the credit for the work they do? And I think editors' names should be on the cover of books. I mean, I think, that, and because a lot of times, I'm assuming they're doing a great job. A lot of times they bring some of the stuff to the party that the author can't even imagine.
Right. Yep. Very, very cool. Very cool. Well, we are actually getting down to our last few minutes. My last question for you would be, what would be one piece of advice that you would give a writing team? Just entering into writing and publishing, what would you say for them? And also, where can everyone touch base and reach you and get copies of your books?
Well, first of all, everybody can reach us at onyxweb.com. Easy. Just like it sounds, ONYXWEBB.com. Yes, Richard, there you
go.
I know he'll have some advice. He loves to give people advice. My advice, I guess, is to have a shared goal or vision. That's probably the number one thing. Kind of know what you want to get out of it. As soon as we start putting pressure on ourselves, any kind of external pressure, the process doesn't become fun. We talk all the time about how much we love writing the series, what a joy it is just to create it together and to watch all of this come to life. And that process in and of itself has to be fun. And so we love doing it together. The whole process is a joy. So my advice is make sure that you're on the same page, that you both love it, because if it's a grind, it's never going to get finished.
Right. And my advice would be, while I think we all try very hard to have our own style, and I think style is important. E.E. Cummings, he didn't believe in capital letters, and I think that's great. And I think you can have a unique style or something that really is different from everybody else. But there's some things that you have to kind of know, and you have to look to the great writers. I mean, we look to people like Kurt Vonnegut and Elmore Leonard and Stephen King and different people. And we looked at their rules of writing and what their things were. And, each person had 7 rules, 12 rules, and we read through them, and some of them we would discard. But some of them, it's like you should have the total number of exclamation marks you should have in a book would be 1 exclamation mark for every 100,000 words. And I went, oh, stop. I have 3 per page. And oh, maybe that's not good. Maybe I think I'm being stylistic. I've got exclamation marks all over. But maybe I'm trying to make the writing exciting by putting an exclamation mark. Maybe I'd be better off making the writing exciting. And then it wouldn't need the exclamation mark. And so you have to really, I think, test your work against the rules that other great writers have used. I mean, I've read some books where at the end of everything, it's like, she stammered, he snorted, he
snapped.
He snapped. And then one of the writers said, the only word you ever need is said. And if you want to get crazy, use the word asked. And I thought, we're working too hard to clutter up the story with all of these extra, adjectives and whatever. What if we just let the writing do the job? And so that would be the main thing. It's just, remember the basics, make a great story, and let the style really kind of go second.
Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go look at my exclamation marks.
I know. I've got them everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
I do.
I know, Carol.
Yeah.
I do. I do that.
Well, looks like we only got a couple minutes.
That way.
Yeah, and Michelle, you stole my question. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, anyways. But, you guys, your enthusiasm and your energy just spills over, and it, makes me want to run out and get the first book right away. Michelle, I think we have to add it to our list, huh?
I think so.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. So, well.
We will get copies in the mail for both of you. So.
Oh, gosh. Signed, I love it. I would love it. Yes. So, well.
Okay.
It's just been a pleasure to have you guys. Oh my goodness. And what a great chat we had. And I know some of our people are going to walk away with some really, really good insight. And so we just want to thank you for coming. And the sun is creeping in on me no matter what I do here. So yes, and we look forward to having you guys again. So
yes,
I think that's about it, huh, Michelle?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
And we're just excited that everyone, viewed today, and we hope that they will come back.
Yes.
And also to subscribe to our new channel.
Yes.
So make sure you do that, guys.
All right.
Happy
Thanks for having us so much. It was great.
Yeah, thank you both. Lots of fun.
Thank you.